Support the CoCo Show and listen ad-free. Plus get cool perks and rad swag. Visit our page at patreon.com/thecoco show. Hi everybody. Welcome to the CoCo Show. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're going to be talking about Speed Racer.
Here comes Speed. Remember that show?
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
You know, it's funny because I never really watched the cartoon, but I consider that movie that came out a couple of years ago to be the definitive Speed Racer. I think it has John Goodman in it.
I like that movie.
You know, I've got an interesting story about that movie. When that movie came out, I was living in Korea. And I left that movie early because the girl that turned out to be sort of my long-term girlfriend in Korea, she called me and she's like, hey, you want to go out? And I looked at Speed Racer and I thought about going to meet this girl, and I think I made the right choice. Although
I think you screwed up big time.
It really probably wasn't the right choice in the end because she caused me a lot of heartache and problems, and we didn't end up getting married. So, yeah. But
it worked out
other
good.
than that, it worked out great.
Well, hey, Speed Racer had Christina Ricci in it, so you got that going.
She is one of my...
I like the visual smorgasbord of sights and sounds that were in the film, but the film was widely canned.
I think that if you go back and view the cartoon is all about the sights and the sounds as well. I don't think people come into Speed Racer looking for, awesome plotting.
That was the first animated, Japanese animated show I ever saw.
Drop it like it's hot. That's
Racer.
right. Thank you, Kilobytes and Caffeine. He's got it. Sorry, unrelated.
Nice work. I love Speed Racer, the show, because it was one of the only cartoons I ever got to see where people were physically killed.
Really? There's actual death in Speed Racer?
Oh gosh, and car wrecks, explosions, the whole nine yards.
Now, Speed Racer was a 60s show, right? I mean, it's pretty.
I don't know when it debuted, to be honest with you, in Japan, but I watched it in the 70s.
Really? So they would show that on TV. They would show Speed Racer.
I mean, it wasn't like people were getting ripped in half on TV, but people would get killed all the time.
Was it like Akira type stuff?
No, it was like car wrecks and stuff, mostly.
Okay.
Or shootings, stuff like that. But it sort of dipped my toe in the pool of anime before I got into the more heavy stuff in my college years. The early stuff was Speed Racer, Battle of the Planets, which was like G-Force. Remember G-Force?
Is that a mech thing?
No. It was this team of heroes that dressed like birds.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I didn't know what that was called. Yeah.
It's called Battle of the Planets, but it was G-Force. I watched some stuff from Japan that was on like Space Giants. I used to watch that. That was the live action where these guys could turn into giant robots, and one kid could turn into a rocket.
That sounds cool. What's your all-time favorite classic anime series?
Oh, jeez.
You were a Robotech guy, weren't you?
No, it wouldn't be my favorite. I would say it's a toss-up for me between, I would say Cowboy Bebop, but 1A would probably be Ghost in the Shell. I lied. I was a real big fan of those. So I'd put those as, Cowboy Bebop's really, really good. So I really enjoyed that one.
I like Cowboy Bebop. Did you watch Samurai Champloo?
Yeah, I did. I watched that whole run of that.
Yeah.
It was sort of like Samurai version of Cowboy Bebop.
Exactly.
Same crew, same voices.
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing. But when it's a good thing, it's not a bad thing.
It did not have Faye Valentine, which was the typical. I love Faye.
Was she the girl in Cowboy Bebop?
Yeah, Cowboy. She was the chick in Cowboy Bebop.
She dressed kind of like April O'Neil.
Yeah, she was a real piece of garbage too. That's why I liked her. In fact, everyone in that show was garbage in a way. That's what I liked about it.
Well, speaking about sort of garbage in every sort of way, let's talk about Speed Racer, Aaron.
Now wait a minute.
That's
just
a bad kidding. Start. Speed Racer's great.
Speed Racer. Now, this was suggested to us by Graham Vebke, I believe. And I'll have to say, Boatster, that when this came up, when the name hit, I was like, Speed Racer. I think I remember that. And then when I started playing it, I knew the second this came up, I remembered. Because it comes up with this, basically a picture of a CoCo and a color TV on a checkerboard. And it was like, oh, yes, I remember this distinctly now.
Aaron, I'm gonna do something that I never do on the show. I'm gonna stop you mid-stride. That's one of the least favorite things that I know, that when I'm trying to work something and I get interrupted. But we really need to talk about the contest that's going on this week on the CoCo Show right up front.
We're gonna just do it right.
We got to do it right up front because I don't want anybody to miss out on it.
Well, we are running a big time contest, Bode. And what we're doing is giving away this. Let me pull it up here. This right here is Gunstar. Gunstar, the Battle for Earth. And we're giving away this brand new, still sealed in the box copy of Gunstar for the Color Computer 3. Gunstar, a great game. I played it, and I really enjoyed it. And our good buddy Nick is behind this game, and we're giving this away, Bo. Now, Bo, everyone's eligible for this. Tell them how they can get in on the action.
It's real easy. All you have to do is write us a review on iTunes, okay? Now, this is not as simple, however, as going to iTunes.com and looking us up. You actually have to download the iTunes program on your computer or go into the podcast app on your iOS device. So I realize this is something that's going to require a couple extra steps, but you have the chance to win a copy of Gunstar for doing this. We are going to take all the reviews, put them all in a hat, draw one out, and that person will win a copy of Gunstar. Anywhere in the world you can do this.
Yes. I highly recommend this game. As far as the shooter goes on the CoCo, this is top tier. Now, you may think to yourself, but Aaron, I don't have a CoCo 3. Or I've only got a CoCo 2, or I've only got a CoCo 1, or I don't have any CoCo. Or I've got a CoCo 3, but I don't have a 6309 CPU. That's okay. You can emulate this perfectly. Emulator's free. It'll run fine. This also comes with some of Nick's older games, including Donut Dilemma, which he's reworked. And so this is a heck of a bargain. So please, all you have to do is drop us an iTunes review. While you're there, feel free to drop some other iTunes reviews to the rest of our shows. But this one here will enter you in the contest, and we'll be drawing that one next month.
Cool.
There you go, Bo.
All right, Aaron. Now let's talk about Speed Racer.
Fair enough. So, again, Speed Racer. This game came out in '84, Bo, and it was published by Mitchtron. Mitchtron, we've came across these guys several times now. But amongst the games they did over the years were Time Bandit, Mud Pies, Outhouse. They actually were responsible for Major Motion, which is a spy hunter game I really enjoyed on the Amiga. So they actually branched out to other machines. This thing was put together by a fellow named Stephen Hirsch, and is basically an automobile racing game with a twist, which we'll get into. And this will work on pretty much anything with 32K. This was also released on disc and cassette, which most of the Mitchtron stuff was. And at the time when this came out, this was kind of a pricey one, Boatster. If you wanted this thing, you're looking at disc and cassette marked the same, $35.
Wow.
So this was a sort of a top tier game.
That seems that just seems unreasonable. I mean,
yeah,
$35 for
games were expensive at '87. That's where '84. That's getting in there, man.
Yeah.
So, what is this game? Well, it's a simple game in terms of what you're up against, but they do a good job. So it's basically a behind the car racing game. I would think a pole position is a good thing to think of.
Yeah.
When you think about what this game would look like. Except in this game, you've sort of got the play mechanic of, I believe it was Turbo that did this, but there were several. This is something you don't see that much anymore in terms of how you play this game. So you're given the choice of 4 tracks. When you start the game, you just take off racing, and you've got underneath the picture of the play field, you've got a speed gauge, you've got your miles, and then you've got cars passed and a bar, and then you've got your score. And the goal of this game is to fill that bar, the cars passed bar, up before you hit the end of the lap. All right. Mm-hmm. If that happens, you get to do the other lap, and you get to finish. I think it's 5 laps, and you finish the race. If you don't have the cars past bar field, whenever the other lap comes around, you're out. It's that simple. The game looks good. It's got several different settings in the background. You've got sort of a pastoral setting. There's also a city setting that's real nice.
Mm-hmm. You got some sand dunes. You got some farmland.
Yeah. But I mean, they mix up the backgrounds for the different tracks, and they look nice.
Yeah.
What do you your first impressions of this thing, Bo? Because I remember this distinctly playing it back in the day. Just from the sound and graphics, when you first fired this thing up, what were your thoughts?
I really like this one. To me, this game does pole position better. I am not a great fan of pole position, to be completely honest with you. It's probably my least favorite behind the car racing game. To me, this game puts the pitch of your viewpoint up a little bit. It seems like you can see a little bit further down the track than you normally could. Yeah. And this game has, I really enjoyed the backgrounds. In pole position, you basically just get the mountains, it's just endless mountains. I thought that the way that I'm not a huge fan of the way your car feels on the road. It doesn't feel like your car is actually on the road. As you sort of go left and right, it doesn't feel real. However, that doesn't detract from the fun of the game. I think that the cars past motif is pretty genius. I didn't realize that there were other games that had done this. This is the first game I've played that has done this. I think that the way, even when I didn't pass a race, when I wasn't able to, get to the next lap, I still felt like I'd accomplished something, because not only do you have your score ticking up, but you also see that car's past gauge there. So it makes you feel like, oh, I'll just try it one more time. I think I can do it. Versus when you lose in pole position, you just lose, and it's over. It's hard for me to think about a CoCo game that runs on the 1, 2, and 3 that could look much better than this, to be honest with you. I mean, it's a very visually impressive game.
I agree with you, Boat. Even sounds halfway decent. I mean, it's here's the thing. It's hard to get these, especially with these older machines, to give you that sense of speed. And this one does a good job. And one thing I like with this is when you're weaving in between cars, it gives you a tiny bit, so it's not like it's super nasty about killing you. Like, it will give you a little tiny pixel or two overlap. And so you can really weave in and out of the cars, and you really feel like you're getting somewhere. It's a lot of fun. I'm with you. I like the cars past. Now, listen, I'm not going to sit here and kill a game like pole position, because pole position, you actually are racing to a certain degree. You feel sort of like you're racing. But this game...
But you never do that. You never feel like you're racing, because when you get pole position after you qualify and you take off, there's immediately cars that you're passing that aren't involved in the race.
You're right. I mean, that does shatter the illusion. But you know what this reminds me of, Boat, is remember that Digital Derby game? This sort of reminds me of that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that's very analogous. I can't even believe I didn't think about that.
Yeah, this is a handheld game in video game form. He took all the stuff from one of these old electric games and put it on the computer, and it works out pretty well. The tracks are varied. Some of the tracks are really tough, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're real curvy.
Yeah, and
but I found one of the things I found in this game is that, unlike pole position, sometimes going to the curves, I think, is a little bit easier than the straightaways.
Yeah.
If you know how to angle your car, and you can use the curve to actually help you pass stuff.
There's definitely it's definitely a nice mix of the tracks go from very like a square at first to like really, really curvy and difficult. So I thought having the 4 tracks, and here's the thing that pole position doesn't let you do, at least on the home versions, is let you choose the track that you want to start on. Actually, I think that's false. I think you can do that on the home versions too.
Yeah, you do get to
but
choose
you don't
the tracks.
you don't get to see, like, for example, on the Atari, on the pole position, you don't get to see an outline of the track. You can choose like the Namco Speedway or whatever.
I think pole position 1 only had 1 track. A pole position 2 had the multiple tracks.
Okay.
In the arcade. Now, Bo, get this. So you know me, I like to when I can find it, I like to print out the docs.
Before you
stuff.
talk about the docs, I just wanted to fire this up here. If you're watching the YouTube version of this show, you can see that we've got a video up of the Digital Derby Auto Raceway, the Tommy version, just so you can see how alike this is to the game, where you're passing cars, you see your lap count down on the bottom, and you even employ the same sorts of strategies where you really want to hug that center line. You know, that's where you want to be spending most of your time.
Thankfully, this version is more forgiving than Digital Derby, which when you can't pass two cars, you're boned. And I will say it has an automatic transmission, unlike Digital Derby. So anyway, I dug up the flavor text for this because I thought it was amusing. So this is what's written in the manual, right? The minutes seem like hours as you wait in anticipation for the flagman to wave the checkered flag. In a few seconds, you will be speeding to 200 miles per hour down a sharply curving, never-ending stretch of road that only a few souls have ever mastered.
Wow.
Yeah. He waves the flag and you're off. Mitchtron wants to know if you're up to the challenge of Speed Racer, one of our most dramatic games yet. Speed Racer offers 4 incredible tracks to drive on, a speedometer that goes at 200 miles per hour, and a wide range of unparalleled locations to cruise. Get into a real bind? No problem. Your repair crew will be right over, but be careful. There are perilous drivers on the road that will stop at nothing. Now, did you ever see the repair crew?
No, never once.
If you ride the side of the road too long, you stop, and then your repair crew will come out. Now I guess they put new tires on or whatever. I thought that was I like Mitchtron's flavor text. They are always a dramatic bunch. Usually I see it in their ads, but overall, like I said, I like this all comes down to whether you are into the cars past gauge. I am. I like it. It's fun. I routinely complete races. On some of the tracks, there are some tracks that I don't, but I mean, I could go through. I got real good scores on this pretty early on. I don't think it's that difficult. I think graphically, it's very pleasant. I mean, they're working with the colors that they have, but they look good. And the road, the bottom of the truth is when you look at the actual driving, the road, the cars that you're on, they look great. And then everything else is just sort of like icing on the cake, Bodil, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
I looked up some reviews on this boat, if I may drop these off. You know, I found this place. I go here a lot from it's called Ice People Review CoCo Games. They gave this game a B+, and they pretty much say it's the best pure driving game on the CoCo, which I would probably agree with that. I think it's a really good driving game. Also, our good buddy Curtis dug us up a review in the 1985 edition of Rainbow. I believe it's January of '85. They were very impressed with it and gave this a strong review. So this is another good one. So I would say, I know, reviews, we weren't getting as many reviews back in the day, but I can't imagine anyone dropping the hammer on this game because I don't think it does that much wrong.
Yeah.
Do we get any Discord action on
this?
We do.
Let me.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, let's check it out here. As always, if you are a supporter of any of the Amigo shows on Patreon, you can post a review on any of our shows on our Discord channel. So we got 2 reviews this week. We got Graham W. Vebke. He says, Speed Racer is a really playable clone of Pole Position with decent rating speed and graphics which vary for each of the 4 tracks with different scenery. The secret to this game appears to be if you can master passing cars in the middle of the road, especially for tracks 1 and 2. I enjoyed track 2 and 3 the most in this game and kept returning to play those tracks rather than track 1 or 4. I like some of the quirks in this game too, like the checkered flag guy just being dropped in the middle of the track, and you could not stop all at once if you started moving because you just move at a stable speed of 40, regardless of how much you applied the brakes. Quite a solid game for the Color Computer 1. I will continue to play this one. And L. Curtis Boyle, the CoCo extraordinaire, writes, one of the better pole position inspired games for the 32K RAM CoCo 1, 2, or 3, featuring 4 tracks, top 10 scores for each, and varying background terrain for each track as well. Very well done artifact graphics and good speed, although it's a teeny bit stuttery, trying to keep the engine sound going while updating a fair bit of screen each frame. I met the author Stephen Hirsch at CoCo Fest a year or two ago. He gave a presentation on how he coded it, which was rather stunning. No assembler. He figured out all the opcodes, etc. in his head and had a simple basic program to poke in the values. Code, graphics, sound, everything. That's hardcore and increases my score from 9.5 from what normally would be 8.5 just for the severe geek cred. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah. I agree. Very impressive. You know, we also didn't mention the very amusing explosion when you blow up.
Yeah.
Just crap flies up in the air.
It reminds me of like the rib cages flying out of you when you get hit in Mortal Kombat.
You know, this game we've talked a lot about pole position, but really, someone mentioned an article, but this does have a little pit stoppy feel to it. And like I said, I was a big fan of Turbo back in the arcade and also on the Coleco. And now this doesn't look like Turbo, but it has sort of a feel like Turbo. But I think really this hangs with both those games and pole position in terms of what comes out on top, which is gameplay. And when it comes to a racing game like this, do you feel like you're getting ripped off when you're passing? Do you feel like sense of speed? And do you want to play to a high score or to finish the race? And for me, the answer was yes on all those. That gets a big thumbs up from me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Aaron, before we go, we want to thank all of the fine folks that have tuned in to watch us on Twitch today. We do record the CoCo Show on Fridays. If you ever want to subscribe to our Twitch channel, Amigos Retro Gaming, you can watch us live, take part in the chat. And we also want to thank all of our CoCo Show supporters on Patreon: Steve Rasmussen, Buttons, Graham Vebke, and L. Curtis Boyle. Thank you guys so much for keeping the CoCo Show going, and for keeping CoCo Talk going. A lot of you guys keep CoCo Talk going as well. So, all right, Aaron, we are going to close this thing out. We will be back next month with more CoCo Show episodes. We will see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.